covering the 4.5 billion years from the creation of the Earth up to the separation of our hominid ancestors from the great apes 7 million years ago. This one is going to cover, assuming we get there, the period from, there we go. Let me give you this. Okay. Oh, we're there. Okay, so we can do it. The period from the emergence of the hominids 7 million years ago up to agriculture 12,000 years ago. The next two are going to cover the period from agriculture up to the millennium, which is the beginning of Western European domination, thank you Paulina, rising to an apogee at the Industrial Revolution and going downhill, as we have just heard in your speech. My contention is that evolution is spinning backwards, and there's not much we can do about it, but I'm still on the upward slope as we talk here. So let me start this presentation, and we'll get slideshow from the beginning. Here we go. Okay. And I'm pioneering a new technique here. Use half the screen for that and keep the spotlight on me. So, 7 million years ago, the climate was changing. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
Yes. It always changes. And what was happening then is it was getting warmer and drier in the jungles where our ape-like ancestors lived. And the pressure was such that some of them decided to move out of the jungle, out into the grasslands. This entailed certain changes. They had to learn how to walk upright. Apes had to walk on their knuckles like this. We had to learn how to walk upright, which incidentally freed our hands, which we needed because there's no trees to hide behind on the open grassland. So we needed to throw rocks to keep the leopards and other bad actors away, and also to get some food. And that's where we were, more or less at the point of Lucy, Australopithecus, the famous fossil from 3 to 4 million years ago. Now Lucy had a few deficiencies. For one thing, she didn't have opposed thumbs. They came later with Homo erectus. And we learned how to do such things as craft stone tools about 2 million years ago. So they would hold a rock with one hand, pound with another rock with the other hand, and chip, 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 make something like that, which may not be the best knife in the world, but it's probably better than no knife at all. And about the same time, we discovered the use of fire, which was pretty good for staying warm, keeping those leopards away, and also clearing the underbrush so that our favorite kinds of food animals would come in and eat the new grass. And shortly after fire, or maybe a few 100,000 years, give or take, we figured out that putting food on the fire would make it easier to chew. And our jaws got a little smaller. And finally, after many, many other exciting adventures, we got speech. 200,000 years ago. Out of these 7 million, that's about 3% of the time that humanoids have been separate from the great apes, we learned how to speak. Pretty big development. So our brains grew from 350 milliliters to 400, that's a little less than a Coke. And then they exploded up to more than a liter by the time we left Africa. So this is pretty impressive. Let me give you a more impressive diagram. The rate of acceleration of our brain growth went from 83 millionths per generation to 0.003% per generation. That's huge in evolutionary terms. Big brains turned out to have been a big advantage And throughout evolutionary time, we just kept getting bigger and bigger brains, presumably because we were getting smarter. What else are they for? So that's what happened. Now we learned how to speak, as I said, 200,000 years ago. Say, how do scientists know this? Because nothing about speech fossilizes. Well, the best fossil clue they have is in our larynx, which came down a little bit, which is necessary for speech. It has to be a little lower, and it also allows us to choke. They say, well, it didn't evolve for choking, it must be for speech. They can also look at changes in the way our brains are wired. Now, humans had developed specialization, left brain, right brain, quite a while ago. Remember when we were throwing rocks, pounding rocks, and so on? We use our right hands mostly. We hold it with our left hand, pound it with our right hand. So that's one observation. Other observation is that speech is left brain activity for the most part. So our brains became bilateral, became specialized, asymmetric. And this is related both to our hands and our speech. And we know that even the great apes today, the chimpanzees, are great with gestures and wiggle their faces and so on to communicate. They're highly social animals. They communicate well. We can only assume that extinct humans had that same characteristic. So we all had this desire to communicate, and our particular kind of humans, Homo sapiens, figured out how to do it with our voices instead of with our hands, but we use the same brain mechanisms to do it. So let's go back in time once again to what the world was like when we learned how to speak. We were in Africa, the Neanderthals were in Asia and Europe, Denisovans in the more frigid parts of Asia, and there were other people such as the recently discovered Hobbit people, who knows how many others around, all minding their own business. Now this Homo sapiens species, our species with speech, had a certain advantage, and we apparently expanded to cover all of Africa. Well, covering all of Africa for hunter-gatherers is not that big of a deal because it takes 5 square kilometers of land, good land, to support one person in a hunter-gatherer society. So it didn't take too many people before they had used up everything usable in Africa. And they said, where next? And here's what they did. They started to migrate. They went north, only way out. And they went north through what's now Israel, what's now Turkey, what's now Ukraine. And they went north till it got chilly. They found 4 seasons. That was something new. And they learned how to cope with the cold and how to store food for winter. And they learned the cold wasn't all that nice. And some of them headed south and went to Australia. The Aborigines got there 50,000 years ago, inventing boats in the process, apparently. No other way to get there. And they went along the China coast. And they didn't go too much farther north for a while because there were Neanderthals there, and they were nasty characters. But eventually, they decided that going north was where it was at, because there was a huge amount to eat there in the form of mammoths. Well, mammoths are not the most agreeable kind of food in the world. They're a little bit ornery. You notice that in Africa, they never hunt elephants. Well, elephant hunting is hard work, but they learned how to do it. And they, along the way, they put pressure on the Neanderthals, and they put pressure on the Denisovans, who eventually went extinct, but not before interbreeding. I stand here about 2% Neanderthal, you too. And the Denisovans put their genes down in Asia. Some of these folks who went north came back south and mixed with the others who'd gone south. Those are the ancestors of the modern-day Chinese. Some of them went west, that's us, and some of them kept right on going, reaching the Bering Strait about 15,000 years ago, and continuing south through the Americas, which had never seen men before. They were filled with large animals, large tasty animals, that had no fear of man. They soon learned better. Many of them went extinct. And by the dawn of agriculture, we had filled up every habitable space for a hunter-gatherer throughout the world. So, once again, we're out of space. What do? That's the next chapter. That's agriculture. They figured out that they needed to make better use of the land. So, just to recapitulate where I'm going with this, we evolved very quickly. People evolve, species evolve as their environment changes. We, more than any other species, have changed our own environment. You saw today how we changed it with our tools, with our weapons, with fire, all the other things. So we changed the environment, and we had to learn how to cope with that changed environment. That's exactly how it was with agriculture. It changed very rapidly with agriculture. We evolved very quickly, and the politically incorrect message is that it didn't affect all human populations equally because some of them never had agriculture. That's the topic for next time. So anyhow, that concludes it for today. Let me say, Mr. Toastmaster, thank you, Paul.
Given my evaluator, Graham Cyber, 5 topics on which I'm ready to give a speech without any preparation. In my humble opinion, since we're at Toastmasters, it is an easy task. If you have 5 prepared speeches and, well, when you will be here for more than a year, you'll definitely have dozens of topics on which you're ready to go and go and go and keep on giving information. So today I've decided that you will give me the topics for the speeches. 5 topics. I need 5 topics, and I will kindly ask our guests to give us the first topic. Any topic that you like. Just out of the blue. Zoo?
Zoopark.
Zoo.
Yes, what your attention to the zoo, how animals...
Zoo, very nice. Zoo. That's the first topic, zoo.
Okay, let's be the most breathtaking technologic advance.
The most breathtaking technology.
Why in the summer so hot?
Oh, very nice topic. Why it is so hot in the summer? Yes, Dasha.
Imagine that aliens come to Earth and you should describe them and imagine ways how you would communicate with them.
Aliens. Great. And the last, you, of course, my relator. You have the 5th. Yes, you have the right.
You have just returned from Greece, the land of the classics. I would like you to compare, please, the Greece of today with the Greece of classical times and tell me which would be preferable and why.
What a fascinating question that is. Thank you very much. Now, I have 5 topics now in front of me, and it's not my part to choose. It is yours. So I think we should delegate this right to my evaluator, who should have chosen them according to the manual. So you choose the topic for my speech.
Oh, you're unfair.
Yeah, I know.
You're wicked.
That was the plan.
Okay. Well, I'd like to take the question on technology, and I would like you to address the question of what is going to happen with automotive technology, in your view, over the next couple of decades, and how should we prepare for the changes in transportation technology?
Okay, thank you very much for the great topic. Now, technology. We were talking about the evolution, just a speech before mine. Technology assured that people will survive all difficulties and bad things that might happen to us because of the fact that nature is not very hospitable sometimes. Technology helped us a lot, starting from the first knife, then going back to the ancient Greece, where Archimedes invented all kinds of things that helped human beings to build things, to provide water supplies, to ensure that the ships were not sinking, and so on and so forth. So starting from the ancient times, people evolved technology and were working on it to make it better and to help people to survive and live a more comfortable life. In the Middle Ages, this process was slowed down a bit, but during the Age of Renaissance, again, we had a lot of things that were invented to help our nation, to help humankind live better and more comfortable. Now, the great breakthrough was during the Industrial Revolution in the late 19th century. We invented all kinds of things. Railroads, cars, airplanes that could actually have some useful load. And now we're living in a magnificent age when we have all kinds of things that seemed impossible only 150 years ago. Just imagine this for 1 second. 100, 200 years ago, they didn't even imagine that something could fly up into the air, leave apart space and that kind of thing. No imagination about that. And now we have it. We should be thankful for the fact that we have airplanes. Like if I would like to travel to Greece, for example, 200 years ago, 150 years ago. It's not that long, it's 2 generations. 2 generations ago, I should have taken the train and wasted 2 months on my road trip. Now it takes 3 hours. 3 hours. And I'm in Greece. The same thing applies, and if we're talking about the United States of America, you needed to take the train, then the boat, and spend a month or 2 or 3 weeks on the sea travel. Amazing how transportation is easier and more comfortable nowadays. There were 3 classes of carriages on the railway. Now, first class, you had a nice seat, and you could make it like this, or you can lie down. This was the first class, the top class, nothing better. No TVs, no air conditioning, nothing of that sort. The second class, you had such chair, and there were a bunch of people around you. The third class, oh, nightmare. They had 3 rows of, I don't know how to call these things, wooden bars on which people were laying. No air conditioning, no air at all. The carriage was just closed and people were bumped in there like fishes in a tank. And people were traveling like that, and they were thankful. You know why? Because otherwise they had to walk for 200 kilometers or even more. Nowadays we're talking about Hyperloop. We're talking about, some people are fancying teleport or something of that nature. And it doesn't seem unreal anymore. That is what fascinates me. It fascinates me the most. It doesn't seem unreal. Travel to space, Elon Musk said that he offers a seat on a shuttle for people to fly to space. Can you imagine that 200 years ago? I seriously doubt it. And now it's for sale. Of course, it costs a lot. But nevertheless, in coming years, the price will go down, as it always goes for transportation. First of all, when the first planes arrived, when the first planes were created, invented, it costed a fortune to fly them. The train tickets were also very expensive. And now, any one of us can afford a train ticket. Any one of us can afford a cheap ticket on an airplane. You know, Wizz Air, any low cost. And the next step will be that the plane tickets prices will go down even more, because there will be a Hyperloop or something of that nature, a very fancy plane like what they have in Emirates. You know that? Have anybody flown with the Emirates Airlines? No?
Yes.
Oh, very good. Come on, please take a seat. It was my third experience on the airplane. Third. So first was my experience when I was a very little child. It was an airplane, Aeroflot, the USSR, and I was flying, and I don't remember it very much because I was very small. Second flight experience was I was flying a corn plane. Do you know what a corn plane is? Kukuruznik. And it dented my my imagination, because I never thought that flying could be bumpy. And it was, and it was like woo, 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 all the time. And that's why I was afraid of flying. But then as I was flying with Turkish Airlines, I had a business trip to Istanbul, and then from there I should have traveled to Dubai. So to Istanbul I fly with Turkish Airlines, and it was great. Like TV, the screen of the TV on the seat in front of me was bigger than my grandmother's TV, and all those kinds of things. But it was nothing compared to the fact that the Emirates plane, well, it was nothing compared to the Emirates plane, because there were 3 classes there, and you come in, I flew economy, and economy in the Emirates is like business class in our Ukrainian International Airlines. And they had these plasma screens all over the place. These screens on the seat in front of you, they were negligible. They were showing online stream from the camera in the pilot cabin, on the wings, and on the top of the plane. So when we were descending, you could see actually how the plane was going down. You could see the line, you can see the lights of the city, of the airport. And it's amazing. And it wasn't for the business class. There was economy class, business class, and first class. In the first class they had a tub. You could take a bath there. It is blowing my mind, but it is reality. It is happening now, and it is happening for 10 years already. Transportation technology is the key for humanity to move around the planet, not only for pleasure, but for survival as well. Transporting goods, transporting, valuable things, possessions, and so on. It is the key to successful survival. And in my humble opinion, what we've done, what humanity did, starting from the 90s till now, it is magnificent. And we have potential to do even better. And we're doing it. So ladies and gentlemen, let's cherish what we have now. Because just 2 generations before us, our grandparents didn't have anything like it. And we do. Thank you very much.
I spent my time inside, so it would be a little difference from staying in a bunker in Kyiv than to go to the South Pole. But probably I would take some warm clothes so that I would freeze, including glasses so that my eyes don't freeze. And you shouldn't go there alone, because in case you have any kind of health problems and there are no doctors, you will die there. So I guess if one of my friends would be a doctor, I will go with him or her. And I guess the only place to stay in the South Pole is staying in some science lab, because scientists are only people who live there. So maybe I will take some science books so that I can have some common language with people who live there. Thank you. And what I will be doing? Of course, I will look at the penguins, because I have never seen them. But it's not the only place where you can see penguins. They also live in Australia, in New Zealand, in South Africa, and in South America. So actually, maybe 20% of penguins don't live in Antarctica. And I would take photos. Maybe I would take underwater photos. And maybe it would be a nice place to stay until it's melted because of climate change. So I think everyone should look at this trip as a unique opportunity to look at a different climate. Thank you.
Bolivia. What will you take and what will you do in Bolivia? Volunteers.
Please, guys.
It's South America, yes?
Yeah.
Yes, it's South America.
Narco barons, like this, cocaine, very cheap.
Slave trade, and all the nice things in the world.
Well, different things.
It's strange that I know it, but I know it. Guys, volunteers, Bolivia. Imagine that you have just half an hour to go to Bolivia and you should to make a plan. Victor?
Quite surprising that people don't want to go to Bolivia. Definitely. It's the same as people don't want to go to Ukraine, because people don't know what's that, where is it, and what's going on to be there. Because if you are talking about Ukraine, people say, yeah, this is a very cheap country, so easy to go, easy to spend a little bit money, so whether it will be safe or not, nobody knows. Maybe you can find just a fiancé or wife, good idea, maybe you can find some troubles and a little bit bigger in the center of city, who knows. So that's the same about Latin America. You never know what's going on over there because a lot of different impressions about it. So maybe you will be killed just inside the car, or maybe just will have a good touristic tour outside in jungles. So as biologist, definitely for me Bolivia is a quite interesting place to see everywhere around, just jungles with animals, with butterflies, beetles, different lizards as well, so a little bit dangerous because of spiders, wasps and other stinking stuff. Nevertheless, of course, I will come there with my butterfly net, with some boxes, with a lot of boxes with alcohol, just to collect some samples, with definitely with video camera, with photo camera, with second camera, just to take a lot of photos and videos, and also taking just some selfies somewhere in jungles. Maybe definitely to take some person who will show the route, the correct path, because it's easy to be lost somewhere in jungles. And of course, to take it maybe just a bag with a medicine, because also very easy to catch something dangerous for your health. If one of our colleagues just regularly coming to Africa to collect some scientific stuff, but nevertheless, even he is very healthy, sometimes he looks unhealthy after his long trip. So that's why if you're going to Latin America, be sure that's a slightly dangerous place for with some mosquitoes who is transferring and vectors on some diseases like malaria and viruses as well. So if you're lucky, you will get nothing. If you're unlucky, just you can catch a very small lizard or frog and you will die in a couple of minutes. Who knows? So it's maybe much better to die in jungles rather than in the jungles of cities. So thank you for your attention. So welcome to Bolivia, I guess. So it's more comfortable rather than in Ukraine and more enjoyable. If you can come jungles, you will be definitely much more surprised.
This country very much. So maybe with your help, I will make some plan. It will be Kenya in Africa. What to do there? What are you going to do there? And what will you probably take? Vitalik, I want to hear you.
Thank you very much, that was unexpected. An impromptu speech again. Kenya, what a wonderful country. You know, first thing that came into my mind is that I'm going to run there. You know, because all the famous runners come from Kenya. Also, maybe I would search for the family of Barack Obama, because he originated from Kenya. Maybe I would have a chance to meet distant relatives of the previous United States of America president. However, that is not the most important thing. Kenya is a very hospitable country. People there are very hospitable, they're very kind, they live in harmony with nature, and you can find lots of different animals. In Kenya, I've heard there is a safari in Kenya, and I've heard from people who were there that it is magnificent. You can see all kinds of animals in wild nature, and it is always interesting. And you can come back from Kenya and tell the guys how I was running away from the leopard mentioned by Graham, or you can come back and say I rode an elephant there, or I was hit by an elephant there, or I caught some parasites in Kenya there. Because you know, to travel to Kenya, if I'm not mistaken, you need to make shots of different vaccines. So you need to be vaccinated because there are diseases that you can never catch anywhere around the globe except for this part of Africa. So I don't know how your trip will be, how it will come, what the results will be, but I'm sure if you'll go to Kenya, you will come back with a great story. Either of your disease or what you saw, that is still to be revealed. Anyhow, if you'll have the opportunity, come and enjoy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me to be evaluator. And the same about evolution, well, yes, lovely. I like very much this idea of presentation about evolution, especially for Graham, who just been reading a lot of books about evolution. Unfortunately, now he just started to share his experience from a great source of books which he was reading and reviewing and evaluating from Amazon as well. So that's why it will be a good idea to indicate resources. Where did you find this information? This will be a good class, writing some names of literature or names of people who were just on which shoulders you have done this presentation. So, but of course this is very prudent idea to talk about evolution, because you must be prudential about it, actually. By the way, why? Because everyone wants to say evolution exists or evolution does not exist. And definitely there is no such a precise idea, but some people say this is evolutional theory, and this is synthetic theory of evolution, but other people say this is not a theory, this is a fact. So you should say, I will be talking about facts of evolution, from hominids till agriculture. First of all, who are hominids? Will be a good idea to say who are hominids. These are different creatures which appeared during this process of evolution before, so that's why they appeared maybe this 5 or 6 million ago. And first evidence we got Lucy. Who is the Lucy? Lucy, this is a creature which was found in Africa, and by the way, this is the name of a scientist who found it, and actually this is the scientific evidence of evolution. And after that you showed very nice map of distribution of this Homo sapiens through all continents till America. And of course, what I would like to add, for example, you made a map with distribution of Neanderthals, Homo sapiens, and this, how you say, people who lived in caves. Do you know?
Dinosaurs.
Oh,
Not the dinosaurs. Denisovans. So, or Denisovans. Why? Because they were found in the present Russia, in caves. And what I would like to add, for example, different restoration of their portraits. Because a lot of pictures in internet to see how it looks like, actually. That's very funny, because they were different in their face, and actually they were different in size. So they were not tall as me, maybe, actually, Denisovans, they were small one, like a very tiny man. So that's very strange. So there were different branches of hominids in this time. So this will be quite interesting, because I made a presentation for college students, and of course I showed the pictures, what's going on, not about bones. Bones not interesting, pictures and portraits, it was funny. And what else? And also I noticed very interesting point, just thoroughly this stuff. You told about appearance of speech. Well, and after speech, just civilization started to grow. So I just underlined this idea about speech, about language. Language started our civilization. And why appeared a language? You said animals, they have a kind of language, they make kind of sounds, they can kind of communication, some crows, some cats, dogs, they can communicate, but they don't have language. Or maybe they have a language, but we cannot understand them. No, probably they don't have a language, because language, this is very special for humans. And it's why it is very special, because first point, this is described with very discrete subjects. like letters. And languages, surprisingly, can be translated from another language. Again, we can translate from English to Russian, to Australian, not to Australian, but Indonesian, but again to some African language. Very strange. And also, animals, they cannot cooperate like humans. Like hominids started to cooperate because of language, and language appeared for also as just a reflection of evolution for cooperation. So two human beings can make something new and create this civilization. A crowd will create bigger civilization, so we can go to the north and kill all mammoths, and they will go turn just again to America, together with animals. Animals also migrated together from South America to North America. And of course, what else? And by the way, language is the most interesting idea because we are just in language speaking club. So at a certain point, I just advise you maybe to tell something interesting about appearance of language and this very nice presentational stuff. You and just your presentation. This is quite interesting because you can, but only letters can appear a little bit bigger because for some people it's difficult to watch. Because my camera has a zoom. For people, bigger letters, this is very important. As big as possible, just as a flash. Flash and the letters, just the words. This will be very, very useful. Just visual aid. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Following your advice and giving me 5 topics to choose from, because I seem to have given you something that you weren't really ready to do. You handled it pretty well. The idea was transportation, where's it going, and you focused on transportation, where's it been, which was pretty good historical recitation. A couple of things there. You say that cars keep getting better and better. Excuse me. 45 years ago, I was driving a car 200 kilometers an hour. I can't do that today. It has not exactly gone.
Depending on the car.
What?
Depending on the car, you still can do that.
The cars will do it. The roads won't do it. The police won't let you do it. So this has not all been uniformly forwarded. And another little anachronism is that I think that hot air balloons were up in the air 150 years ago, but others. So the point is that you answered the question that you could, but if you had done it as they had suggested, you would have gotten one that you could have knocked out of the park. Now you always give a good speech, so I don't need to emphasize the good points because you hear them over and over again. You make good use of the stage, you make good use of vocal variety, gesture, drama, and that was all certainly present. But I think that you could have had a better vehicle for it if you had allowed yourself the opportunity. I'd like to conclude by going on my hobby horse about Elon Musk. You talk about Elon Musk. And you mentioned the Hyperloop, that's an Elon Musk thing. The SpaceX, that's an Elon Musk thing. Elon Musk seems to have accomplished one thing. He's able to make a very good flammable battery that they call a Tesla. It bursts into fire spontaneously and it steers itself. And when they take that SpaceX off, I'm sure if it finds an asteroid up there, it will have a hard time deciding to go on this side or that side, and it'll hit the asteroid. I'm not a great fan of Elon Musk. He's doing too many things, and it seems like he's doing them badly. So that's me on my hobby horse. It has nothing to do with your speech. But if I hear Elon Musk again, I'm going to gag. That's enough. Let me give it back to the table.
Predictable topic, but you made it quite good. Your questions were challenging, so I wanted to answer each question. But I had to be prudent today because I'm an evaluator, and to give the opportunity to other people to speak. So you gave it. The only thing I'd like to suggest, when you started right away and you started any volunteers, and then you remember that you had to introduce the role, that the people have 2 minutes for speak, and it is very important for our newcomers because people haven't seen. Probably Alexander and other people who are for the first time here, probably they were at other meetings in other clubs or in this club, but it is very important, essential for them to understand. And the next thing, it's very good when the table topic master asks some experienced speaker to be the first speaker, the experienced person to be the first speaker. I wish Victor or Vitaly were the first speakers, and Vitaly spoke today for 3 times. So it would be great to give opportunity to speak for newcomers then. So, and all in all, I wanted to answer all your questions, and and I stopped myself not to raise my hand because people have to speak. Alexander, you appeared very confident here, and you are quite good storyteller. It was really interesting, so go on with that. For suggestions for your next speeches and impromptu speeches, remember about the opening body and conclusion, because actually I don't remember the conclusion, but for the first time that was really great. And remember to be briefer, because you had 2 minutes here. So remember for the next speeches. Dasha, again very confident and very logical. I appreciate your logical conclusions about bunker. It was a really great idea to tell it, to say it. The only thing, 2 things I'd like to suggest. You sometimes looked at the table topic master, the person who asked you the question. So look at all the audience, and you stood at the same place. Me as well. Victor, I appreciate your humor. It was really outstanding, and you had opening, body, and conclusion. And by the conclusion, I was really crying out of the laughter. And it is a really excellent example of impromptu speeches. And as I have told, maybe Victor could have been the first person. The same as Vitaly. Your opening was very interesting, and your ideas about runners in Kenya. You remembered all the things, all the famous things, well-known things, I would say, about this country and about Barack Obama, his origin from there. But I would stress more on opening and conclusion. But all in all, I guess you could have been the first person to show us how it could be. So thank you very much, and that was a very interesting table topic session. And the last thing is revealing the name of the person who is getting this thing, and it's Victor.
Very tiny black label, button. Like this?
So we're not doing.
No, thank you. We're just joking.
Okay, thank you. And